Hey loved one, let's get serious about finally getting our front split. This is your 15-minute daily routine for front splits. It's also the routine that I am using daily as I work to get my own splits back. Follow this routine daily to increase flexibility in the hips, hamstrings, and hip flexors. It may help to grab 2 sturdy pillows and yoga blocks to help prop you up and allow more space as your body becomes more flexible. We'll begin with a brief 60-second warm-up of our lower extremities to wake those muscles up. Please remember to go at your own pace and at your own flexibility level. Pushing past pain is not going to help you reach your split goals any faster. In fact, it'll slow you down if you end up injuring yourself. If you keep up with this routine daily or near daily, you'll find that your flexibility will increase in no time. Moving to the floor, we're going to start in our low lunge, remembering to grab blocks if we're unable to reach the floor with our hands, as we want to make sure we're keeping our chest up and our back straight, not curving or bending, as this decreases the stretch. Be sure that the front knee does not move past the toes. We're aiming to push our hips toward the ground while keeping our hips square. You should feel a nice opening in the front of the hip and the hip flexor. We'll come out of the stretch a few times and return, sinking our hips back down toward the ground. Coming out of the stretch for a few seconds and returning helps ensure that we are accessing our full range. Each return allows the body to open up just a bit more than before. Try to sink lower into the stretch with each exhalation. Breathe. Rocking the hips back, flexing the foot, and leaning over the extended leg for a hamstring stretch. Remembering to use your blocks if it's more comfortable than resting the hands on the ground. Again, aiming to keep the back straight, as a round back decreases the stretch to our hamstring, and we want to increase our full range of motion here. Hamstring flexibility is so important in accessing our front split. Coming out of the posture for a few seconds before sending the hips back again, returning to the hamstring stretch, being sure to breathe through tight, stiff areas. And to get an even deeper stretch into our hamstring, we're going to turn in the direction of the extended leg. You should immediately feel a difference at this angle. Bending the front knee, returning back to a lunge. This time we're going to take our lunge all the way to the floor by placing our elbows on the floor or on blocks right next to our front leg. Aiming to keep sending our hips toward the floor, increasing the stretch in our hip flexors. Putting our hands on the floor and extending our back leg, raising the knee off of the ground while sending our hips toward the ground. Dropping the knee back to the ground for a few seconds, then lifting and extending once more. Let's repeat this same process on our left side. Starting with our low lunge, remembering to grab the blocks if we're unable to reach the floor with our hands, making sure to keep our chest up and our back straight. No curving, no bending forward, as this decreases the stretch. Being sure that the front knee does not move past the toes. Aiming to push our hips toward the ground while keeping our hips square, which means facing forward toward our front leg just as the shoulders are. Feeling a deep but gentle opening in the right hip flexor. Briefly coming out of the stretch before returning, sinking our hips back down toward the ground. Aiming to sink lower toward the ground with each exhalation. Rocking the hips back, flexing the front foot, and leaning over the extended leg for a hamstring stretch. Remember to use your blocks if it's more comfortable than resting the hands on the floor. Aiming to keep the back straight, no curving of the spine, no rounding of the back, because it decreases the stretch to the hamstring, and we want a nice full stretch here. And to get an even deeper stretch into our hamstring, we're going to turn in the direction of our extended leg, paying close attention to the difference that we feel at this angle. Bending the front knee, returning back to a lunge. This time we're taking our lunge all the way by placing our elbows on the floor or on blocks just beside our front leg. Keep sending the hips toward the floor. We want to feel a deep stretch in our hip flexors. Putting our hands on the floor and extending our back leg, raising our knee up off the floor while continuing to send our hips toward the ground. Dropping the knee to the ground for a few seconds before lifting and extending again. Great job! Coming back to all fours, rocking side to side, front to back, or around in circles just to help our body recalibrate. From here, we'll make our way to sitting, shaking the legs out a bit. From here, we'll take a forward fold, trying our best not to curve our back, but to bring the torso forward, closer to our thighs and knees as if we're trying to kiss our knees with our rib cage. If you have the space, go ahead and grab those toes and flex the feet, providing an even deeper stretch to the hamstrings, calves, and ankles. Breathe. Breathing helps stop the stretch reflex, which is our nervous system's natural response to prevent overstretching so that we don't injure ourselves. However, this stretch is intentional, so deep, slow breathing helps communicate to our nervous system that it is safe to relax into this stretch. Coming into a half split with the right leg forward, we're going to go ahead and place our left leg to the side of us at a 90-degree angle. Stretching directly over our front leg, keeping our back as straight as possible to increase the stretch. Remembering to breathe. Next, we'll come to the center of our stretch, so not over either leg, but right in the center of them, to get a very deep stretch in our left hip. Before we come back to our forward stretch, feel free to move your body forward just a bit to increase the space between your front leg and back leg. Stretching back over our extended right leg, keep the back straight and keep breathing. We're going to take the same sequence once more. Bending our front leg and leaning directly behind us for a nice hip flexor stretch. If you turn your body slightly toward the right, it will increase the stretch on the left hip flexor even more. If this is a little too intense, you can stay facing center. Rocking the knees from side to side and releasing the hips, releasing the stretch. We're going to move to our left side. With our left leg extended in front of us and our right leg out at a 90-degree angle. Stretching directly over our front leg, keeping the back as straight as possible to increase the stretch. Remembering to breathe. Coming right into the center of this stretch to get a deep stretch in our right hip. Remembering that we're going at our own pace and our own flexibility level. Not pushing past pain or stretching past where our body is ready to go. But we should not feel like we're creating an injury. Before we come back into our stretch over our extended leg, go ahead and push a little further into your half split to increase the space between your front leg and your back leg. Stretching back over our extended left leg, keep the back straight and make sure that we are breathing. We're going to take the same sequence once more. Keep breathing deeply and calmly, constantly communicating to our brain and our nervous system that it's okay to relax these muscles. Bending that extended front leg and leaning directly behind us for a nice hip flexor stretch. Maybe turning your body slightly to the left to increase the stretch in the right hip flexor even more. And if it's too intense, then remaining staying facing the center. Coming back onto all fours, let's prepare to slide into our split to see where we are. This will be a great time to grab your blocks and your pillows if you feel you need to be propped up a bit or have a little bit more space provided for you. With our right foot forward, we're going to slide into our split, accepting whatever level we're currently at. Keeping the hips square and facing forward, mimicking the position of the shoulders facing the front leg. It helps to keep the back toes and knee facing toward the ground to ensure that the back leg is square and not turned out. If you're using pillows, you will place them directly under your hips and pelvis as evenly as possible, using blocks under the hands to prop you up even further. Throughout this stretch, we'll be coming out of it and sliding back in to help our body open up even more. You can do this at your own pace or just follow me. Please remember that your body will become more comfortable the more you practice these movements. Stretching can feel very awkward when our body is learning to be limber. Stick with it and it will become much easier, even something your body craves. Slowly coming out to move to our other side, I'll turn so that you can see my hip position more clearly. Again, using blocks and pillows if you feel you need to be propped up or have a little bit more space provided for you. Slide into your current split position. Keeping the hips and shoulders facing the front leg, keeping the toes and the knee of the back leg facing the ground to ensure that the back leg is not turned out. Coming out of the split slightly for a few seconds and then sliding back into position. Hips square, shoulders and pelvis facing the front leg. Back knee facing the ground. It's also normal to have one side that may feel a bit tighter or a bit more limber than the other. We're working to restore balance while opening up our lower extremities as a whole. Slowly coming out of this position, slowly, allowing the body to catch up, shaking the legs out, allowing everything to recalibrate. Coming into butterfly for a little bit, maybe doing a few flaps or even forward fold if need be. You did so well, loved one. See you tomorrow.